Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. After 8 years, Mike Gallagher says he won't run again for his 8th congressional seat. A surprising announcement after a week of heavy criticism from local supporters. He says this decision has nothing to do with that. We speak one-on-one with Gallagher about his decision and what might be next for him.
Democracy is messy.
After 4 terms and wanting to grow his family, 39-year-old Mike Gallagher says he's retreating to a campaign promise of not making Congress a career.
Those things combined with, we just had been talking about this. I think it's a good time to step back.
So what's next for you then?
I don't know yet. I got to figure it out. I'm just going to focus on my job and we'll see what opportunities emerge.
This week, the former Marine was one of 3 House Republicans to vote against the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The decision angered the chairs of county chapters of the Republican Party.
I don't think he understands the consequences, of these actions. I really don't.
Did the pushback from supporters on the Mayorkas vote have anything to do with this?
No, my wife and I were thinking about this long before we even knew that we're going to vote on Mayorkas impeachment. And I've also been through that before. That pushback was nothing compared with the pushback I got when I did not object to the election on January 6th, or even when I voted against Trump's emergency declaration.
Did any party leaders ask you to not run again?
No. I've talked with the party leaders and they encouraged me to reverse my decision, but no one asked me not to run again.
Time is not on our side.
Gallagher says he looks forward to focusing on his work as the chair of the House Select Committee on China, one of his proudest accomplishments in Washington.
Well, I'd like to think I've set a decent example of how to conduct yourself in public office. I guess that's for other people to decide, but more than anything else, I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
In this story on Fox11Online.com, you will find our full interview with Congressman Gallagher. We also have reaction from the state Democratic Party and a list of potential candidates for this position. And we already have one official entrant into the race to replace Gallagher. Republican Roger Roth, a former member of the State Assembly and Senate, posted on X that he will be a candidate. Roth wrote, as a lifelong resident of Northeast Wisconsin, he's ready to fight back against President Joe Biden's dangerous open border, disastrous economy, and weak foreign policy that has put Americans at risk both at home and abroad. Roth also said he's ready to return former President Donald Trump to the White House. Here's a look at what's next for Wisconsin voters and when they will be at the polls. We have the spring primary coming up on February 20th, which consists of municipal and school board races. The spring election and presidential preference primary is April 2nd. August 13th is the fall primary, and the general election is on November 5th.
To start off, how did you reach your decision?
My wife and I have been talking about it for a long time. We have a young family. We want to grow that family. This job is sort of uniquely unsuited to that project, and it's definitely getting harder to be away from my daughters. We have 2 daughters, 3 and 1 now. And so I also think, like, lurking beneath all this, if you examine what I said when I first ran for office, I was an outsider. I'd never run for anything before. And I really felt like we needed to get back to the model of a citizen legislator. You serve for a season. You don't do it as a career. Congress should not be a career. We have too many career politicians. So 8 years, my term limit is supposed 12 years. I always had in mind this being just a season of service, not a long-term career. And so those things combined with, we just had been talking about this. I think it's a good time to step back, particularly given that I've just had the incredible privilege of chairing what I think is the most influential committee in Congress over the last year. And it's hard for me to imagine that getting any better. And so just felt like it was a good time for me to step back, do something different. And my title may change, my job may change, but my mission is going to remain the same. I've dedicated my life to the defense of this country, the defense of the Constitution. That's going to continue to be my North Star.
So what's next for you then?
I don't know yet. I got to figure it out. If an internship at your station is not open, I'll have to come up with some other option. I know the Packers have an opening right now. Just kidding. I'm not going to put my name in the hat for that job. But we'll see. I got a lot of work I got to do in Congress, and I'm just going to, I think sort of one of the positive externalities of this is I'm going to be able to focus 100% on my job chairing this committee, on representing Northeast Wisconsin. One of the tensions inherent in the House in particular, where we have 2-year terms, is that you have to do your day job and then you have to run for re-election to keep that job. And that's very hard. I think a lot of members struggle with that. And so I'm just going to focus on my job and we'll see what opportunities emerge.
Did the pushback from supporters on the Mayorkas vote have anything to do with this?
No, I mean, my wife and I were thinking about this long before we even knew that we're going to vote on Mayorkas impeachment. And I've also been through that before. That pushback was nothing compared with the pushback I got when I did not object to the election on January 6th, or even when I voted against Trump's emergency declaration and what I thought was an unconstitutional reappropriation of money. And so I've been through that before. And my experience is that even when people are upset with you, as long as you go in front of them and you explain how you feel, they can respect that, and they don't expect you to agree with them 100%. And I think particularly here in Northeast Wisconsin, people are nice, people get it. People aren't like obsessed with politics like they are in Washington, D.C. So that just wasn't a factor in the decision.
Did any party leaders ask you to not run again?
No. I've talked with the party leaders, and they encouraged me to reverse my decision, but no one asked me not to run again.
So will you ever run again for anything, either at the federal level or maybe the state level?
I'm open to it. Public service is always going to be a part of my career. I want it to be balanced, though. I want to do a mixture of private sector and stints of public service. I don't know what that would be in the future, but I'm certainly not ruling anything out. I don't see anything on the horizon that I'm, gearing up to run for, but I'd love the opportunity, if it was the right opportunity, to do another stint of public service in the future. Obviously, there are things I care deeply about at the state and federal level, and I'm not going to stop caring about that just because my title changes.
And now that you've made this announcement, I'm interested in hearing, where do you stand on former President Donald Trump? Will you support him if he wins the party nomination?
Well, the good thing about not running is I don't have to answer all of these Trump questions anymore, because I know you guys just want to make it all about Trump. I mean, my position now is, obviously, I'd prefer someone younger. I prefer a generational shift. It doesn't seem like we're going to get that in this election. I think Republican policies are much better than Democrat policies, and I think Joe Biden has failed the commander-in-chief test. And I think it's probably healthiest for me to step back and not insert myself into the 2024 conversation or commentary, because anything I say could be used against someone in the Republican Party who's trying to take this seat, and I just don't want to be. I don't want to be part of that. So.
That was going to be my next question: is who do you think should replace you? So I guess
we'll see who runs. I mean, I'm sure we'll have a lot of people that are interested. We have a lot of good state legislators that I've worked with very closely. I have no idea who's thinking about throwing their hat in the race. I just think back to when I ran. I was 32, 8 years ago, and nobody knew who I was, right? If you had asked Reed Ribble this question at that time, he wouldn't have known my name. So there could be someone unexpected. We don't know. And I think that's healthy. Like, part of what I've done with my leadership pack and some of my political efforts is to encourage non-traditional candidates, veterans, people from the private sector to run for office. And I think that's really healthy. And I think we need more of that going forward.
So lastly, besides being the fastest member of Congress, what are you most proud of from your time in Congress?
7-time fastest member of Congress. Okay. Although I'm getting slower through the years. A few things that stand out. One, chairing this committee, which I think has been the most influential national security committee and most bipartisan. It's been amazing. We've laid out the blueprint for how we beat China over the long term. Prior to that, I had the honor of co-chairing the Cyberspace Solarium Commission with Senator Angus King, who became a good friend, and we got a ton done. It was the most successful commission in modern history. And then here at the local level, we've been able to get a lot done, even beyond like the bills I've passed in Washington, D.C., able to help Marinette Marine win the frigate competition, which is transformational for our district, our clean water efforts here in Northeast Wisconsin. And though it sounds less sexy, just the day-to-day constituent services that my team has provided. We really prided ourselves on providing world-class constituent services. And, whether it's just helping someone get their Social Security check or their VA benefits or with a passport, that may not sound like a grand accomplishment, but we tried to do that well for 8 years, and that stuff matters to people. I'd like to think I've set a decent example of how to conduct yourself in public office. I guess that's for other people to decide, but more than anything else, I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I've learned so much. I've just fallen even more in love with Northeast Wisconsin. As you know, the people here are phenomenal. It's just been the honor of a lifetime.